One of the most exciting parts about pilot training is learning how to land. Landing an aircraft is a remarkable sensation, and it adds together a lot of the skills that you've already practiced up to this point. Being a safe pilot means knowing how to safely bring your aircraft from cruise flight to the ground. One of the most true sayings in aviation is that takeoffs are optional, but landings are mandatory. In this lesson, we'll evaluate the landing process, how we make a safe, competent landing, and why every landing begins with a good approach. Our approach to landing begins here. This is the downwind leg. In this leg, you can't see it, but I'm flying parallel in the opposite direction to the runway on which I intend to land. The downwind leg is important because it gives us plenty of time to evaluate the runway, the landing environment, look for the windsocks, listen to the ASOS, find any traffic or obstructions, and figure out how we want this approach to look. Now, the downwind leg is a standard pattern leg. It's something that you'll accomplish on any standard landing that you do as you fly. But it's always a good time for reference. It's also the time period where we begin slowing down, initialize our descent, and set our airspeed as appropriate for your specific aircraft. This turn right here is the downwind to base turn. This turn is where we begin really getting a better understanding of whether or not we're high to our reference point, low to our reference point, or need to make other adjustments. Remember, this entire time we're flying in slow flight. We're pitching for airspeed and powering for altitude. At this point in the game, I'm beginning to add my next notch of flaps as appropriate for your aircraft and approach, and I'm beginning to verify that my landing checklist has been completed. Turning to final, I'm still evaluating that runway environment, but as we turn final, let me take a brief pause. My eyes are focused here. This is my aiming point. My eyes are looking at the aiming point more than any other object at this point in the game. I'm referencing the instrumentation inside the airplane, but I no longer care about what my specific altitude is. Instead, I care about my height above my reference point. And by looking at that reference point, I can assess what it is I am doing. Am I high? Am I low? Am I descending perfectly? The reference point is the single most important part of your final approach. Without having a defined reference point or one point where your eyes are looking, this approach is nearly impossible. That's not to say your instrumentation isn't important. Your airspeed is critical, and remember, pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. On final approach, we should be maintaining our approach airspeed or 1.3 times the published VSO for your aircraft. Once I know my landing is good, once I know I have made the runway and my landing is committed, my eyes begin shifting between my aiming point and all the way down the runway. Looking all the way down as far as I can see allows me to align the nose, ensure I'm on center line, and my peripheral vision will allow me to flare at the appropriate height. In the flare, I'm just trying to hold the plane off the ground. I don't want to force the plane back into the air, so very light pressure is required for keeping the nose up. If you were to bring the nose up too much, it would cause the airplane to balloon back into the air, at which point you would be best off making a go-around. Go-around procedures are different from each aircraft to each aircraft, but some basic rules apply. Always apply full power coupled with right rudder, and slowly begin bringing the nose up. You don't want to induce a power on stall at this low altitude, so make sure you monitor your airspeed closely. Ask your CFI for specific details on how your aircraft's go-around procedures should be handled. Also, remember this is a general overview. Make sure you consult your aircraft's specific POH and consult a certified flight instructor for the specific landing techniques and operations used for the aircraft you will train in. Knowing where to place your eyes is critical and really helps improve your landings. So make sure you use the aiming point and the end of the runway, both to bring yourself down to the runway and to make sure that you are in alignment with the runway.